ready. This is going to be exciting.
And the Geico restarts up to go. Green flag is out and we're underway.
Just a few laps into this. Oh, the 37's getting loose. Oh, and he saves it. Oh, they're going 3 wide.
We've got a 5-way fight for the win of this race coming to 4 laps to go. He's gonna win it here in spectacular fashion.
From the Hawkeye State, the Goat Locker Racing INVETS Grand National Series gets ready to pare down the playoff bracket from 12 to 8. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Iowa Speedway. Joseph McWhorter and Mark Whitley have been dominant all season long, while Levi McCarty has been hot on their heels. I'm Dave Regal, alongside the Big Red Machine from the North Pole, Logan Santa Threlkeld, with Skylar Daly in the production truck, and we're ready to bring you all the action. From the green flag to the checkered flag, right here on V-Speed. And I'll tell you what, Logan, this is a big night as we get ready to pair these 4 drivers out of the way and get ready for the round of 8.
That it is. These drivers will be on edge today, of course, under the lights here at Iowa Speedway, just shy of that 1 mile mark up in Newton, Iowa, 0.85 miles around, 14 degrees of banking in the corners, 10 degrees of banking across the front stretch for this D-Oval circuit. Of course, opened up September 15th of 2006. And interestingly enough, we've got a couple iffy spots in the corners. We'll see it once we get to the green flag racing here, but we've got new asphalt on top of old asphalt. There's separation in both corners where the driving line is going to matter a whole heck of a lot tonight, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, working around this piece is going to be really difficult for most of these drivers, especially because you can't wrap the bottom as you would at a traditional short track. So boogieing around this joint going to be difficult. We can even see that in some of the sections of the racetrack tonight as we get ready to rock and roll. Taking a look at our playoff bracket, Mark Whitley and Joseph McWhorter still there in contention to move on to the round of 8. Sweeting and Barrett Morton, of course, in there. Levi McCarty, as we mentioned a minute ago. Burke and Frederick Seagraves Jr., as I've been calling him Frederick Seagraves Jr. III, for those of you to listen to the Dan Patrick Show. He has been sneaky good here in the latter part of the season with Davis Kinder, Curter Wallace, and Ken Huber rounding out our round of 12. So pretty exciting tonight, if you ask me. And as these drivers get ready to settle in, we've only got about 1 second left before we get ready to award the pole award for this evening, brought to you by Jam Printing and Promotion. Tonight, that award is going to go to Joseph McWhorter. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning, local and veteran certified. When they do well, they can do more good in the community. And he is joined, Joseph McWhorter is, by none other than Mark Whitley, starting on the outside of the front row. Row number 2 going to be held down by Ken Huber and Garrett Kinder, while row 3 and rounding out your starting top 5 are Judson Curtis and Barrett Morton starting in 6th. 7th position on the inside of row 4 is going to be Trenton Sneed with Brandon Wallace starting in 8th. 9th position going to be rolling off is Kyle Deering and Tracy Passons rounding out your starting top 10.
In 11th, it's Stephen Davis in the 09. Next to the 16, the Greg Biffle machine of Jamie Lipke in P12. In 13th, it's Frederick Seagraves Jr., the 3rd in the 59. Next to the 04 of Wesley Burke in 14th. Behind them, it's the 7 of Charles Abert next to Stephen Purcell in the 92. The 43 of Brock Price will roll off P17 next to the 56 of Benji Richards. In 19th and 90 of Dave Calvert rolls off next to the 20, or apologize, the 1 in 20th of Christopher Heiner.
Starting in 21st is Wyatt Dooling in the 51 machine, with the 49 machine of Mark Barcelos going to be rolling off in 22nd. On the inside of row number 12 is Kevin Price, with Daniel Craykiel rolling off in 24th. And he is going to be followed by Gary Wright in the 44, who will actually be starting shotgun on the field. Looks like Craykiel not going to take the start as these drivers get ready to rock and roll. And if we could get some live footage of these drivers, that'd be great. As we flip on over there, the lights are on now. The iRacing.com pace car bringing us down the backstretch and into turn 3. And I'll tell you what, Logan, this is one of those nights where even once these iRacing.com pace car lights turn out like they are, these drivers are getting those gloves twisted up, those hands high on the wheel. The iRacing.com pace car brings us through the restart zone. What's going through your mind as a driver while you take that one last parade lap?
Well, while watching some of that practice session, it's going to be difficult. So these drivers are kind of trying to pick out what line that they think will work out best. It's all about the strategy game here today of car positioning, not so much the strategy that we're going to see take in the pits. We've got about 55 to 60 laps of fuel with the 60% fuel load. Of course, 100 laps on the board. So we'll have at least one scheduled pit stop. Now, it's all going to come down to the yellow flag. How much or how many times will that thing come out today? What kind of strategy will these drivers be able to play with those 3 extra tire sets over the wall that's available? And of course, we got the 2 green-white checkers at the very end if we need it. Hopefully we don't here today. These drivers just need to settle down a little bit from the practice session.
And as those drivers get themselves settled down, the iRacing.com pace car comes on into turn number 4, makes the hard left turn down pit road. Our green, never mind, just kidding. I was all excited.
One more time.
This is like prom night. You were all excited for absolutely nothing.
Well, we've got just the one more time around, and then we'll get you right into your role of taking us to the green flag. But you know, it's again, just talking about that practice session. There's a lot of self spins that I had seen, and it all just comes down to utilizing. We see it now, that new asphalt on the bottom of the track. Of course, it extends a little bit further out of the corner up on the very top, but positioning yourself on that new asphalt is going to be very vital. There is zero grip once you get onto the older stuff up at the top of the track. Of course, you want to dive it down into the corner as best as you can, try to arc it out, pick up that speed on exit.
Without a doubt, and these drivers are going to be working on that all night long. And here under the lights, there's going to be plenty of grip. The iRacing.com pace car peels on down pit road, and that means, folks, the only thing that's left to do is it's time to wipe the visor and adjust the 5-point harness. Grandma, grab your popcorn, your honey buns, and settle in. Race fans, it's show time! Green flag in the air, off we go in elimination week. Side by side go McWhorter and Mark Whitley as they come across the stripe. It's going to be the double natural of Mark Whitley getting credit for leading lap number 1. Joseph McWhorter in the 72, hot on his tail as he is right there on that left rear quarter panel, nearly cleaning his clock coming down the backstretch.
And Whitley has a lot on the table here today. Taking a look at the points into this race, he's currently sitting P7, so right on that cutoff bubble, as well as just behind will be Garrett Kinder. So both of those drivers not safe coming into this one. Of course, Joseph McWhorter leading the points. Ken Huber coming in second. Wesley Burke up there in third. All looking pretty well set to make it to the round of 8. But Whitley, Kinder, Curtis, and McCarty all right there on that bubble from 7th back to 10th.
We've got a good battle for 7th position here. Brandon Wallace, who's now got Trenton Sneed just behind him. Now Sneed is on the low side. Watch the 53 of Tracy Passons, who works the high side. The 81 of Trenton Sneed now to the low side, goes single file behind him. He's looking for a way around, but I think this early in the tire run and this early in this race, I think the Rogersville native needs to maybe back off and take his time. Up ahead of him, though, the 99 of Brandon Wallace, just kind of watching the 53 of Tracy Passons creeping up behind him. Passons is probably going to get a harassment charge if he stays back there much longer without saying anything.
The 53 just trying to bide some time to get around that 99 of Wallace. Wallace with a great starting position up in P8, taking over the 7th place spot, putting Trenton Sneed just a few spots behind. But, you know, it all comes down. We've seen that 99 play the strategy game every single race, it seems like. Always willing to go that extra mile here on the track and try to extend that fuel run as the 53 takes it all the way up to the wall through 3 and 4. Very early to be running that line and loses a lot of ground there to the 99.
Just behind them, running in 13th position, Wyatt Dooling was just dueling it out with Christopher Heiner. Now the 51 of Dooling looks to the rear bumper of that one of Heiner, the Lynchburg, Virginia native, having to hold the high side as he's got Dooling just underneath, and they're going to duel it out coming out of turn 4 and coming back toward the start-finish line right here at Iowa Speedway. 8 laps in the books. Folks, you're watching the INVETS Grand National Series live on V-Speed. Want to thank everybody for tuning in from wherever you may be listening to and however you may be watching tonight. Frederick Seagraves Jr. the third just ahead now, having to hold off Christopher Heiner. And Heiner is right behind Seagraves now, as Seagraves just kind of holding his line. He's not really trying to make that race car wide enough to throw the block, but we've got a hot battle for the lead as now the 77 is having to hold off. Here comes Joseph McWhorter hauling the mail down into turn number 3. They're going to roll this corner coming back toward the front stretch. And right now your race leader being scored as Joseph McWhorter out of St. Robert.
And like you mentioned at the top of the show there, Dave, it's not a track that you can wrap the bottom and pick up speed to make passes. It's that second lane that will prevail. That's where the 72 came into play there, got the pass completed, and now taking over the lead back to where he started this one. Back to that battle with Dueling. Just behind Heiner and Seagraves. Heiner down to the inside. Seagraves Jr. up at the top of the track, picking up the speed across the tri-oval. He's going to keep that 59 machine just ahead of Heiner. I like this positioning. This is a good spot to be. You want that second lane to keep your car ahead as the 51 takes a look to the inside, down into turn 3. Gets the front axle to the rear axle of the 1. See how the drive off works here.
So she's out of the racetrack. Oh, the 1 just blasted the wall.
Oh, no.
Barrett
More
Morton
contact.
registering. Oh, God. Barrett Morton having registering as wrecked. Let's take a look at the V-Speed instant replay. Thank you, Skylar, as we take one quick look here. That's going to be the 40 looking from high above. This is kind of an interesting development. I don't see where the contact was or what that's registering. Let's take a let's see here. I'm going to scroll back here on my own feed. Barrett Morton. Oh, Barrett Morton. I don't know what. Wait till you get to this one, Skylar. Morton just, I think he had something break in that race car. It had to be. Oh, this is wild. I can see why you have a problem too. There was some kind of I don't want to say net code, but it was almost like a, yeah, I'm sure it's not. There was some kind of a connection failure that may have been site-wide. Well, that's going to trigger our first caution of the evening. Joseph McWhorter going to stay out on the racetrack. Mark Whitley coming on down. Let's take a peek and see who else has decided. It's going to be Heiner, Dueling, Barrett Morton, Mark Barcelos, Gary Wright, and Brandon Wallace with the meatball flag. Thank goodness for the old fast repair.
Taking a look back here on my side of things, Dave, it looks like the 40 of Huber had a great run, decided to challenge the second place driver of Mark Whitley coming out of turn 4. They got almost to the stripe there. The 40 of Huber didn't take it all the way up to the wall. Can't tell if the 77 might have came up or the 40 came down, but either way, Ken Huber came across the nose, made contact with the pit exit wall, came back up the track, collected the 9 of Barrett Morton, and then came back down the track out in front of the 51 machine. I don't see exactly where Brandon Wallace got involved in this, but that was the contact after the fact. He couldn't avoid the spinning 9. So Wallace got wrapped up in it from that. There was even a little bit more contact throughout the field, but looks like it's just the 3 there of dueling Huber and Wallace with Barrett Morton. So make it 4 that had a lot of damage to get repaired.
Yeah, somebody had come across the 77's nose as well. So a
Yeah,
really
that was the
interesting
40. Ken Huber.
There we go. All right, fair enough. Well, that's just a really interesting development this early in the race. Of course, speaking of early in the race, let's check in with our series sponsor, INVETS. INVETS aids in transitioning to civilian life, focusing on job placement and finding the right community for veterans and their families to ensure their success and happiness. They are a veteran nonprofit in Indiana with the goal of bringing veterans to that state to live and work. You can check them on out over at INVETS. Put that in your search bar. Of course, we wouldn't be here without them. They've been incredible all season long, and we thank them for the opportunity to get us on the air.
So luckily enough, the 77 of Whitley didn't pick up any damage from that. He made no contact with the wall, just had the 40 come across the nose. So it wasn't a hard hit by any means. It was just a slight touch there to the left rear. It does look like Race Control is going to call that one on the 40 of Huber, but Huber has since left. He brought it back to the garage after the contact. So we're going to continue on here. Double back up as the pace car comes off. And into the extreme scoring restart zone we go for the first restart of the race. In control, the 72 of Joseph McWhorter from the top side. Gets a great drive down to turn 1, but not enough to get into the bottom, as Whitley will challenge the inside.
The nighttime is the right time on the racetrack, and to watch these two go John Force style down the backstretch and into turn 3 is something that just absolutely thrills me as a race fan and, a broadcaster as well. The 72 with the edge, still working the high side, and they're side by side behind him as well. Garrett Kinder and Judson Curtis just behind, doing the I'm going to do this shuffle. This is impressive, at least for my money. We see this all the time, but finally they've decided that they want to do this on elimination night.
Remember, too, that 4 of Kinder, he needs the points here today. Coming in just behind Mark Whitley, right on the bubble, 8th in the standings for the cutoff race. So if he can pull away with a top 5 finish, I'd say he will likely advance on. But if he has any sort of issue on the track, utilizes that one fast repair and then gets in another incident, that could be playoffs over for the 4 machine.
If we've talked about that in every race series ever. Oh, check this out. Side by side they go a little bit deeper in the field. Check out the 09 of Stefan Davis working to the inside of the 81 of Trenton Sneed with Wesley Burke just behind. We suddenly have a 3-way battle for 5th position while Tracy Passons is trying to scamper away from both of them. But single file they go in front of Passons. So Passons is going to have to sit there and maybe just focus on the windshield, not the rear view. Let them duke it out behind and put some gap between him and those two drivers. That's probably the only way that he is going to at least stay secure in 5th position as we work lap number 21 of 100. 80 laps to go here at Iowa Speedway. As we look even deeper in the field, it seems like Wesley Burke and Frederick Seagraves Jr. III going at it, the Boyne City, Michigan native, running in 9th position in the 59, holding his own. He's up 4 positions from where he qualified in 13th.
And Wesley Burke on a drive here today. Started out P14 on the grid, but did have to serve an EOL penalty to start this one after an incident last week. So back at the back of the field, all the way up here to the 7th position now as we're single filed out. The battle on behind, offset 3 wide as Barrett Morton trying to claw his way back to the front of the field.
They are almost 3 wide yet, just behind Seagraves, but now the 50 of Kyle Deering goes to the low side. You know, we've talked about this multiple times tonight, and obviously they aren't listening to us, but the bottom is not the preferred line here at Iowa. You can see a lot of bumping up against the wall. That middle is going to be your preferred line. They've got just enough grip here through 1 and 2 and getting ready to shoot down the backstretch that you can use that middle groove to get yourself good exit and rotation coming out of 2 as we take a look. I believe that is Stefan Purcell there in the number 92 Lung Dart Diaper Machine, just behind Wyatt Dueling in the 51. I mean, seriously, folks, he's sponsored by both Marlboro and Huggies. I feel like that's something that happens in a southern trailer park.
I was going to say the opposite end from birth to the other side of life, but
yeah, you shouldn't be smoking while you're having a baby, no?
I don't want to say no.
I don't want to judge. I'm a recovering nicotine addict.
Well, back up towards the front, Wesley Burke has gotten to the inside of the 81 machine. They stayed side by side down the backstretch. Burke now clear of the 81. Barrett Morton takes a look to the inside. Can't get enough momentum from that bottom turn in. He'll slot back behind Trenton Sneed and Wesley Burke. Now taking a look to the outside of Sneed. It's methodical here on how you create your passing opportunities at Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa is not the kind of racetrack where you can really drive in hard, especially on turn entry. You know, and you certainly can't try to knife your way underneath somebody. I mean, this is almost a continual turn through the front stretch. So, you know, the only time that your arms are getting a break is going down the back stretch. So there's no real good place to try to shove your way in. Of course, as I say that, Barrett Morton just throws himself underneath the 81. Thanks, Barrett. I love looking like a clown.
The only thing that helps that pass on the inside is if you have that car ahead of you, take it up to the top of the track, cut the nose off the car that you're battling on the outside. And of course, with the slower speed coming off the bottom of the corner, that'll naturally check up the driver in the battle. And it looks like it's going to work out here well for Barrett Morton. As that exactly happened. Now clear of Tracy Passons. That's 2 for 1 in 1 lap.
Yeah, but Passons is going to start to fight back as Passons now noses underneath Morton. Passons is going to really have to back that corner up, at least for my money, to try to loosen the car, because what happens here as Morton now retakes 6th position, what happens here more often than not is the car suddenly gets tighter than a snare drum as you try to make that. Oh, and sideways, I saw that. That was Kyle Deering just out of our view. Now gathers up the 50 machine, the New Bern, North Carolina driver. Having a bit of a moment. Let's take a look at the V-Speed instant replay. He was side by side with the 59 of Frederick Seagraves Jr. the third. And oh, Seagraves just gave him a little bit too much nose in his rear.
But then immediately straightening back out.
Impressive. You know, that's something that I've said more than once about this particular league, this organization, Goat Locker Racing, on the whole. These drivers at every level of Goat Locker Racing's competition always have a great way of keeping the car pointed in the right direction. There's been more nights than not that we've sometimes gone nearly caution-free. Don't get me wrong, we've had a caution fest or 6, but nothing wild, as Joseph McWhorter is going to be the Pied Piper coming down pit road here in our second caution of the evening. McWhorter going to have to come around the bend. This is a very long pit road, and he's going to slide into pit box number 1. He's going to get 4 tires and a tank of Go Fast as they pop up the right side of that Chevrolet Camaro.
You know, Dave, you were mentioning the great drivers here in the Goat Locker Racing community. How about the great sponsors we also have? One of them being Zat Graphics. Zat Graphics is a family-owned independent business with emphasis on Christian values, honesty, and commitment. Located in Brownsburg, Indiana, their service policy means treating every customer with the individual attention that they deserve. Contact them today at zatgraphics.com. That's Z-A-T Graphics. We can put your design on almost anything.
When they say almost anything,
It
Is
means
that
almost
right?
anything.
It means almost anything, right?
Yeah, almost anything. Not everything, but almost anything.
I'm going to try to see what they do or do not have.
I would say one good rule of thumb is they probably wouldn't put a graphic on a pet.
I mean, why not? Yeah, see, that's an alleged question. I think we should try it. A little bit of spray paint never hurt a cat. I saw Meet the Parents. Worked out well for that cat. Also want to thank our friends at Above the Yellow Line race. Above the Yellow Line. I'll tell you what Taylor Kitchens has done with Above the Yellow Line is incredible. ATYL Media is something that I love to follow on TikTok and, of course, the other socials. And without Taylor, I had an incredible conversation with her a couple of years ago, and she's who put me in contact with Jamie and everybody here at Goat Locker. I mean, such a genuinely good person. Make sure that you head on over to YouTube, TikTok, follow ATYL Media. When it comes to women in motorsports, Taylor Kitchens has this thing nailed.
Yeah, absolutely. That platform there that she has created has nearly just been one of the best. What's the word? I'm going to say kind of a news front, but not really a news front for anything and all things motorsports.
I mean, look, if you're gonna take a passion and make it your career, she's done all the right things. Honestly, huge tip of the cap to Taylor Kitchens. Make sure that you head on over to ATYL Media. You can check them out on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere else on the internets. But right now, we're getting ready to head into the extreme scoring restart zone here on lap number 35. The green flag flies, and we're back underway. Mark Whitley with the good jump, as opposed to Jenny with the good hair, as we get underway. Barrett Morton with a jump over top of the 72, as it's going to go Whitley, Morton, McWhorter, something we've seen more than once this season.
Of course, Whitley, the only driver to not bring it down to the pits last time. He's going to extend this run way further than anybody else. Fresh tires coming up from behind. The 72 McWhorter takes back the second place position. Barrett Morton won't let it go easily. But check out this speed from Joseph McWhorter. Right back to the back bumper. What's he going to do with this positioning? Shoots it down to the inside of turn number 3 and clear before even getting to turn 4. Back to the race lead goes Joseph McWhorter.
McWhorter has been one of those drivers that we've seen time after time dominating every league that he has been in. I saw him in the ARCA Series. I see him here, and they go three wide behind him as Garrett Kinder now takes to the high side. They split Mark Whitley and Barrett Morton on the low side. They just ran a freight train.
Three wide
Mark
again.
Whitley. And there they are again. All of a sudden, Mark Whitley has something. I mean, if this were a real car instead of a virtual car, I'd say something maybe broke. But Mark Whitley is sinking like a stone right now in the Jawa GG 77.
That's just the new tires versus no tires call. 77 will sink like a rock exactly here until he gets some fresh Goodyear tires underneath that machine. Trenton Sneed, Tracy Passons trying to get by. Looks like Kyle Deering's going to take a dive down to the inside. Not the call right now, as he went from the front row and now will be struggling to hold on to a top 10 until we get this field reset. And imagine, Dave, we take a green flag run here until that lap 55 to 60 area that we're expecting to see on fuel. Theoretically, these drivers ahead could possibly make it to the checkered if they save enough fuel. But Mark Whitley in a bad spot right now.
Well, I'm here to tell you, first and foremost, as Whitley now sinks all the way back to 13th, I'm here to tell you that Mark Whitley right now is betting on people who have played the wrong game with fuel mileage. I mean, right now he's back just ahead of Stefan Purcell and Phoenix, Arizona's Jamie Libke. Now, Libke, driving the Greg Biffle throwback paint scheme with that National Guard number 16, now gets ready to pass the 77, and Libke has ran a pretty good race again tonight. We talked about it last week. She's one of those drivers where, you know, she's never the cause of anything. She just gets wrapped up in other people's dumb stuff. So, Mark Whitley now sliding between the 16 and the 44, and I guess maybe he's decided him and Gary Wright are going to hang out for a while, or at least hitch his wagon to the rear of Jamie Libke. We're working here on lap number 43, and to your point, if there's anybody on the racetrack, whoa, side by side, good gravy, that can't be serious, or that can't be dangerous at all. The Sitco number 09 with Stefan Davis at the helm, just ahead of the 51 of Wyatt Dooling. Stefan Davis now goes to the high side, almost throws a block in front of Dooling as that Toyota Supra now works underneath the Mustang of Stefan Davis. They go side by side, nearly able to touch wheels, diving into turn number 1.
So here's the strategy at hand, at least in my head, is if you're at the front of the field, you double this run, so you take it to that lap 70 mark, or just pay attention when Mark Whitley finally brings it down, as long as it's not within the next 10 laps or so, and just pit at the same time. Oh, as Barrett Morton goes for a spin.
59 and the 9 were around. The 59 of Frederick Seagraves got a little loose, and let's go to the replay. There's the 59 just in front of Barrett Morton. Now, Morton, does he give the 59 some help? I don't know if he's, yeah. Oh! And then coming in, good Lord, punted. Oof. Brandon Aubrey couldn't kick one through the uprights like that.
It was a hard hit there. You saw Morton check up for the contact that was created by the 9. I believe that was maybe the 49 of Mark Barcelos that got into him after.
I thought it was the 49. The 49 doesn't look damaged. Taking a closer look here at Mark Barcelos. And you know what? You talked about it just a moment ago about drivers and fuel mileage. Now it looks like Stefan Davis, Purcell, Jamie Libke, Mark Whitley. Whitley's now going to come in. We know that Whitley can make it from here. It's less than, it's less than 60 to go. We're just over 50 to go. So we know Whitley can make it. The question is, can McWhorter?
Yeah, 15
it's about to happen
on his stint.
Yeah, it's about to happen. I mean, Whitley's going to drive through the field. He's going to get the 77 right up to the rear bumper of the 72. Wait for McWhorter's tires to fall off and just drive the doors right off of the 72. I'm calling it right now.
He's got a lot of work ahead of him to do that, however. I mean, being back here towards the middle portion of the field, that's where we've seen our cautions come from so far, aside from caution number 1 with the 40 of Huber up at the front. But it's always so dangerous to be in the middle and the back of the field and having to avoid everything, especially on such a short track where if something's happening on corner exit, you have very little time to react.
It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
If you say so.
Hey, everything's going to be just fine and dandy. Want to thank our friends over at Alexander PCs. Alexander PCs is a custom and gaming PC builder who has been building and modding systems since 2002. They are a veteran-owned and operated family business, and all of the team members, support, and production are U.S.-based. All desktop PCs come with an industry-best lifetime limited warranty and service guarantee. Work, play, conquer, Alexander PCs. My grandfather is one of those people that love to hear the words warranty and guarantee. You could have sold him anything on earth as long as you had a limited lifetime warranty. And service, that's why the man had Craftsman tools coming out of his ears.
Yeah, that would make sense.
You know how hard it is to break a flat-headed screwdriver? He would try just so he could get a new one.
Hey, I mean, you might as well. It's a buy once, cry once type of situation.
Apparently he didn't have that Snap-on money. All you mechanics out there on YouTube know what Snap-on money is. or at least what the payment plan looks like.
That's putting it nicely.
I'll never forget looking at a utility knife and a Snap-on. I had my work truck years ago in for service at the garage, and Snap-on guy pulls up, and he said, "You want to take a look at anything in here?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not? I got time to kill." Truck's on the rack. I walked in there, and for a utility knife, they wanted $35. I'm like, "Are you high?" Like, I've smoked a lot of weed in my life, but never enough to charge $35 for a knife as we hit the extreme scoring restart zone and the green flag as Joseph McWhorter gets a good jump over the 404 and the 53. They're in a three-way battle for second position as Garrett Kinder has taken off and is now under assault from Tracy Passons and Wesley Burke.
That 04, once he gets clear of this battle, expect to see that car trying to challenge for the race lead. I've been waiting to see Wesley Burke get up towards the front and see if he has anything to say to Joseph McWhorter or Mark Whitley. Now with Whitley out of the picture for now, the 04 is going to take a look to the inside of Garrett Kinder as we drive down the back straight into turn number 3, taking the inside line. Kinder's going to pinch down to the bottom, won't allow that car to rotate as much as Burke would like. Passons now from behind taking a look, trying to follow who he thinks will be just a touch faster. Door to door through 1 and 2 are the 4 and the 04.
Yeah, this is a hard number combination to call as the 04 and the 4 of Wesley Burke and Garrett Kinder duke it out just behind Joseph McWhorter. And here's the thing, McWhorter's looking in the rearview mirror going, "You know what, boys? You go ahead and fight that out. I'm going to go up here and start gapping you by now 0.6 of a second as we work lap 53 of 100. 46 to go now, 47 to go, as the 4 of Garrett Kinder now hurls it to the inside of turn 3. And as they roll out of 4 back to the front stretch, now Wesley Burke has the option to try to get a little bit of a good exit here. They're also duking it out as Mark Whitley is on the recovery drive. Right now he works underneath Gary Wright as Gary Wright gives up 12th position. And the Pflugerville, Texas native has no choice but to watch the double natural of Mark Whitley scamper away and now put Wyatt Dooling in his sights.
We saw Kinder get a little loose out of turn 4. That allowed the 04 of Burke to challenge back to the inside as looks like Whitley will get clear of the 51 of Dooling. Up to P11 now on those much fresher tires, 15 laps of difference between Mark Whitley and everybody else ahead of him. Like he mentioned earlier, with enough fuel to take it to the end. Single filed out through the rest of the field ahead of him. So it's just going to be picking them off one by one until he can claw his way back up to the podium positions. Looks like a battle back here with Stefan Davis just behind Jamie Libke. Gary Wright right in the equation as well. Barrett Morton on the recovery effort, nearly 3 wide back there for just a second. The 16 of Libke prevails through the bottom lane. Takes it up to the top across the nose of the 51. The 51 now sliding back in the middle. 3 wide offset contact.
Contact with the wall. Yeah, contact with the wall as now the 44 hauls it under the 51. I'm just monitoring here while you're watching this battle in the back of the racetrack. All of a sudden, Garrett Kinder has closed the gap from 0.6 of a second to just 0.2 of a second behind Joseph McWhorter. Is wow, the 51 still in it here. Wyatt Dooling right in the middle of this sandwich between the 09 and the 44. The 09 of Stefan Davis trying to find his way around as the 51 of Wyatt Dooling now has to give up 15th position. Not often, and again, Logan, we've seen this more often than not in at least here in GLR history. We see battles this far back and we know that they're going to be exciting. That's why we cut to them.
Yeah, absolutely. The battles at the back of the field, the middle of the field, anywhere can be just as exciting as the battles at the front as Garrett Kinder continues to close that gap up to Joseph McWhorter. Nearly got to the back bumper into turn 1. Now, with McWhorter, I know that driver is smart enough to attempt to save tires as best as possible and play some defense here. As you see, McWhorter will take that second line off the bottom of the track He recognized early that it's extremely hard to take a pass to the bottom through the corners. So he's going to play defense here from a lane up, as he's going to continue that momentum through exit and get back out ahead of Garrett Kinder by about 0.3 of a second. Behind that, it's the 50 of Kyle Deering trying to make way around the 81 as they both dive it down into turn 3. Tracy Passon's at risk of getting passed by 2.
62 laps in the books, and the battles are only just heating up. Watch nearly making contact is Frederick Seagraves Jr. and the 50 of Kyle Deering. Seagraves now backing off. He's got a lot going on right now as he's got the 50 out of his windshield in the front and the 77 of Mark Whitley behind. This is the scary one, kids. I'll tell you this much. If I'm Kyle Deering, I'm looking at not Frederick Seagraves, but Mark Whitley, who's ready to take my lunch money.
That 77, those fresher tires working out pretty well so far. Came from about 17th up to P9. It stalled out just a touch, but that's that dirty air that's coming into play. There's not a whole lot of it once you get to a track that's under a mile in length, as 59 will make contact with the wall out of turn number 4. Opens up the door for Whitley to take the inside line. Not quite clear through 1 and 2. Looks like Seagraves will have to check up there in that second lane. Whitley up to P8, taking a look to the inside of Kyle Deering now for 7th. Nearly 3 wide, but we're going to be 2 by 2. 2 rows deep here. Whitley getting a great drive.
As it sounds like my partner just dropped out and off the face of the planet. The 77 of Mark Whitley underneath the 50 of Kyle Deering. We've suddenly got a 4-way battle for 7th position as we work here at Iowa Speedway. You're watching the Goat Locker Racing INVETS Grand National Series live on V-Speed. The meat in this sandwich right now is the 81 of Trenton Sneed, as Sneed now works just behind the 77. Frederick Seagraves Jr. the third. He's going to work himself in a decent position for the time being as we work here. And now Seagraves is going to go door handle to door handle with the 50 of Kyle Deering. Folks, this is something that's so indicative and so characteristic of Goat Locker Racing. You're seeing a battle that's way back here for 7th, 8th, and 9th position. And we're watching that rage because Joseph McWhorter is 7/10 of a second and then some over Garrett Kinder leading this race.
We just saw the 16 of Jamie Libke trying to challenge for position now as well. Just got in behind the 50 of Deering. Has the 9 of Morton just behind. Deering nearly making contact with Seagraves Jr. We'll have to check up a touch, and looks like Libke will have an opportunity to take the bottom route. Deering kind of out of the groove, just a little bit higher than what you would want to be to utilize that second groove, still on the newer asphalt. There goes the 16 free and clear now. It's the 9's time to shine, trying to get around the 50 machine.
You know, this is going to prove to be something really difficult all night long, as Barrett Morton and Kyle Deering are going to have to fight this one out like two kids in the backseat of the family station wagon. As we watch Stefan Davis kind of watching from behind back in the 09, he's 4 car lengths back. The 43 of Brock Price gets a better seat to this one, but I think the driver who's got the most to gain out of this is going to be Stefan Davis, because if one person makes a mistake, he's the only one with the reaction time and the space between himself and those drivers to be able to capitalize on a mistake made.
Taking a more contact with the wall here around this battle. I believe that was Kyle Deering getting into the wall. Brock Price trying to make way here, as Barrett Morton has gotten around Jamie Libke. But taking a deeper dive into the point situation, I noticed Brandon Wallace, after that initial incident at the beginning of the race, he fell 2 laps behind. He's since gotten back onto the lead lap, the 99 holding on to the 16th position. Wallace comes into this race tied for 4th, or rather 5th in points, at a 38-point playoff run. Now, Mark Whitley just behind. Garrett Kinder with 26 points so far in the playoffs. Barrett Morton in the 9 with 19. He's just out of the picture, 7 points behind the cut. There's a lot that can happen here. I don't know if Wallace, with the current placement on the track, will keep him in the picture, but Barrett Morton needs at least 7 points of an advantage over Garrett Kinder, and Brandon Wallace has a 12-point advantage over him.
You know, and for you folks that are listening to my partner here give those points breakdowns, make sure that you head on over to extremescoring.com. Check out their product, because I know that a lot of us have used other scoring systems and points tabulators on the iRacing.com servers as wow. The 09 just shoots to the inside now of Kyle Deering. But for those of us that have used other points management systems for iRacing, I'll tell you what, Extreme Scoring has got to be second to none across all of these servers.
Yeah, absolutely. The tracking with Extreme Scoring it's very vital whenever you have, I believe it's 8 or 9 running series here in Goat Locker Racing, and it's tough. I'm hearing 11 from our producer Skylar Daly, so it's a lot to keep track of. Extreme Scoring helps kind of file all that into one place. Keeps all the statistics in line for us up here in the booth to quickly reference things, as the 29 of Judson Curtis will bring it down to the pits. Our one and only green flag stop here. There will be another one. I believe that's Garrett Kinder visiting the pits. So some of our, at the front of the field drivers now will be bringing it down, topping off on fuel, taking some fresh tires. Interesting to see them not try to extend this a little bit further.
Well, you got to figure that some of these drivers, they've only had one caution between, this point in the race and when they last came down. So they may not have been able to save enough fuel to get these next 23 laps in the books and all the way home. So I know that if there's one driver I'm going to trust, it's Joseph McWhorter. I know that he is a fuel-saving wizard. But if you're Wesley Burke, if you're Tracy Passons, if you're Barrett Morton, you might be gambling with not exactly house money.
Kinder makes his stop. Looks like he will top off on fuel. So expect to see a couple more drivers bring it down and take some more fuel. McWhorter has a massive 2.4 second lead over Wesley Burke, who has almost a second over Mark Whitley. Again, 15 laps of difference between those drivers on their tires, on their runs. As McWhorter actually brings it down pit road this time. See what the 72 elects to do in the pits. And he just picked up a black flag. The 72 of Joseph McWhorter speeding in the pits.
And you know what? This is one of those things that it's not like the real world where maybe you can go to a review. When iRacing tags you with the black flag, you're SOL. This isn't, oh, let me go ahead and protest this. We're in a private league. You're on your own, Chief.
Absolutely. And now that essentially, at this time, should hand the race lead over to Mark Whitley, unless Wesley Burke has magically figured out a way to save 20 laps of fuel.
Well, Wesley Burke is 15 laps older on tires and fuel. So Mark Whitley, basically, look, we've seen this before. Now Mark Whitley's going to close this gap. All of a sudden, he was just, to use some of my prom night illustration from earlier, he was checking this girl out from across the room, and he has quietly waited until she's tired enough to slide in there and steal a dance away from Wesley Burke.
That's exactly what it's looking like. I would assume that the 4 of Burke will likely stay out as long as possible as the 72 of McWhorter rejoins the field right here with our leaders, but he will be scored as 3 laps down. So we'll try to get one of those back here naturally. He's got a handful of drivers between Tracy Passons, Garrett Kinder, Judson Curtis, Christopher Heiner that he will have to battle to try to get to that lucky dog position. It's going to be pretty well a race ender, or at least not a race ender, but a win ender for Joseph
win-
McWhorter here. I don't
win
know.
hind-
It's the best thing
a
I could
win-
come up with, Dave.
A win hinderer.
There we
A
go.
A win hinderer.
That works.
As we work here with 16 laps to go, Stefan Davis a little bit further back, now working underneath Jamie Libke. Jamie Libke, here's the thing, and I've said this about many races on the iRacing.com servers. When you're moving quietly up through the field, as Jamie Libke has right now, +7 after qualifying in P12. I mean, Wesley Burke +13. Congratulations, but you're about to get your teeth kicked in by Mark Whitley. You know, when I see Jamie Libke, who's quietly worked up into 5th position, that top 5, that's when you know that somebody's made the smart decisions on the racetrack that night. They're not trying to be too flashy. They're not trying to drive in there too hard. Jamie Libke, secret, quiet, crazy dark horse to maybe take a podium position tonight.
We have 3 wide here with Libke up at the top. Luckily settles out before we enter turn 1. Garrett Kinder down on the bottom. Stefan Davis just behind with Trenton Sneed taking a look to the inside. Sneed will fall behind. Garrett Kinder pulls ahead of Libke. Kinder, that driver, was 1 lap down, trying to work back up. Currently being scored in the 15th spot. Whitley, Morton, Libke, Davis, all those drivers should be able to make it to the very end of this race with no problems. So we're closing in on 10 to go here, Dave.
Yeah, just a dime piece left, and that's the thing. You know, this is definitely, if this is one of your first races, if not your very first race here watching Goat Locker Racing on V-Speed, this is the kind of competition that you get to see. You get to see maybe a couple of cautions from dumb things or you know, stupid mistakes happening on the racetrack. But all of a sudden here, the cream has risen all the way to the top as we watch that one machine. Christopher Heiner was just looking to the inside of the 04. Now the 04 has gotten buried back in the standings, but now, you know, basically Wesley Burke, he's going to get worked over by the one machine. So our race leader now has to give a lap back to Christopher Heiner, who came down on lap number 80. And there sits Mark Whitley just creeping around, waiting.
Just heard for the 81 of Trenton Sneed, bringing it down pit road. So the remaining drivers up here at the front of the field that will have to bring it down will be Wesley Burke, Kyle Deering, Frederick Seagraves Jr., and Gary Wright. The remaining of the top 10, all on the same strategy, having pit 44 laps ago. They will have enough to take it to the very end. If we keep it clean and green here to that checkered flag, looks like Whitley with a 2.9 second lead over Barrett Morton. Here comes Garrett Kinder into the equation, trying to get around these race leaders and get back on the lead lap. And Wesley Burke brings it down pit road. That hands over the lead to Mark Whitley.
Well, we knew that was going to happen. Everybody raise your hand. And, of course, this is an audio medium for us, but raise your hand if you're surprised. I'm guessing your hand is just sitting relaxedly on your desk. Mark Whitley now takes over the race lead. Barrett Morton, Jamie Libke.
Or Kinder works through the inside line, back onto the lead lap into the 11th position for the 4 machine.
Guess it would help if I unmuted my microphone.
That does tend to help.
Oh, well, listen, let me start with this one. Look who's running P3. Look who's finally decided to make old Dave look like he knows what he's talking about, as now Jamie Libke crawls up into that 3rd position. She's bringing along Stefan Davis just behind. Brandon Wallace in the top 5 as well. But right now, Mark Whitley, who takes over the race lead, he's all sealed up with Barrett Morton just 0.3 of a second in front of Jamie Libke. The question is, with 6 laps to go, does Jamie Libke try to solidify staying here in 3rd position or go for P2?
Might as well go for broke. Try to make a move around Barrett Morton, but do it safely, of course. You know, we've stressed how often Jamie Libke gets wrapped up in issues that aren't caused by herself. With Would love to see a top 3, hopefully a top 2 finish here for the 16 machine. Avoiding the incidents here today as we're 5 to go as Mark Whitley crosses the line ahead of the field by 3.2 seconds right now.
It's an impressive finish to this race with just 4 laps to go. Mark Whitley, Barrett Morton, and Jamie Libke, 1, 2, 3 they are, and Libke starting to close the gap 0.3 of a second. Not a whole lot of close battles elsewhere on the racetrack. This is just about the best it's going to be. Jamie Libke out of Phoenix, Arizona, now closing in, if you will, getting right up here, just 0.4 of a second behind Barrett Morton. Now Morton, Libke, and Whitley all came down on lap number 46 for their last pit service, a tank of Go Fast. And now, with 2 laps to go, the popsicle sticks are in the air.
I like this spot for Morton, taking a look at those points again. Outside of that cutoff bubble by 7 points to Garrett Kinder. Kinder being scored in the 9th position right now. So it's going to be very, very tight. There's only those 7 spots between the two. It's really going to boil down to who else can make some sort of ground into this playoff number 8 as the white flag's in the air.
The white flag is in the air, presented by Glove Station. Quality gloves and protective gear to get you across the finish line. As we are racing back to checkers, coming into turn number 3 is Mark Whitley. Whitley now gapping the rest of the field by 3.6 seconds. He crosses that corn-laden start-finish line and captures the checkered flag. He's going to be followed across the start-finish line by Barrett Morton and none other than Jamie Libke, who finally gets a top 3, who finally makes it look like old Dave knows what he's talking about when he's talking racing. Stefan Davis, Brandon Wallace, Stefan Purcell, Benjamin Richards, Garrett Kinder, and Mark Barcelos round out your lead lap cars coming across the line. We're going to step aside and
I believe Dave was about to say we're going to step aside, have a quick word from our sponsors here of Goat Locker Racing. Let them have some commercial time here after our event has been completed at Iowa. Mark Whitley, your winner with 22 laps led. Stick around, everybody. We'll be right back with interviews and our post-race results.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. INVETS can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. INVETS can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about INVETS, visit us at invets.org today.
Superior quality, ultimate protection, and the highest level of craftsmanship. We make our gloves for the hard worker that wakes up every morning and gives 110%. You deserve the highest quality protective gear that's going to work for you day in, day out. We know it can be tough deciding what companies to trust for your hard-earned money. It's all in our name. We've mastered our craft to help you master yours. We make our gloves rugged, durable, and designed for you. Whatever the job is, we have you covered. We are your glove station.
Welcome back to Iowa Speedway. Dave Regal and Logan Threlkeld with you here in the V-Speed broadcast booth. We're going to get a chance now to talk with our podium finishers tonight, Mark Whitley, Barrett Morton, and Jamie Libke. Let's go ahead and get a hold of our race winner, Mark Whitley, as Whitley now slides into the booth. Hey, Mark, it's Dave up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
I got you.
Buddy, listen, a great finish tonight. You punch your ticket, of course, easily into the round of 8. Now, you started second. You led 22 laps, including the most important one. What was it like boogieing around this place tonight?
It was a little interesting. 1 and 2, I was running a little bit different line than most people. I was trying to hug the bottom a little more. People were trying to enter a little higher. It was really just, in practice, you're just getting really loose. So you're just trying to keep the right rear. And it felt like in the race, the right front was a little more wear heavy. So it was just a constant battle of just making sure you could get through the corner pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers tonight, we were seeing a couple of different pit strategies, and we saw you having, not pitted for a while, and then all of a sudden the break came and you were smart enough to take that, just 15 laps after that initial caution. So, obviously you rolled the dice and made it right here tonight. What are you looking forward to as we head to the round of 8 next week?
Yeah, just looking forward to hopefully we got that little bad luck out of the way. Hopefully the rest of the playoffs a little bit better for us. Bristol, Chicagoland, both tracks I like to run. Just try to either win one of those or just get 2 really good finishes and focus on Homestead because that's what that's what everything's for right there, that last race. So just hope to get to it and be able to have a good run there.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, before we cut you loose, you know how we do it here on V-Speed. Who do you need to thank and who helped you get it done tonight on the 77?
Yeah, first all the league sponsors here: Lincoln Tech, Save 22, the Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, INVETS, ATYL. Just everybody helps put this league on. It's just one of those things that without them, it'd be hard to run what we do here. My personal sponsor is Brantley over at Harpoon Design. He does awesome work. If you want to get you a paint scheme made, check him out at harpoondesign.com. He's probably the best, not even probably, he is the best painter on iRacing, so check him out. And if you're looking to upgrade your sim rig or get into sim racing, check out Jawa.gg. They're the #1 online gaming marketplace. Got really good deals going on, even with all this stuff going on with the RAM and stuff. So they got you covered over there. And I guess final shout out to you guys putting on a great broadcast. Should be fun to go back and watch. Probably a little bit less stressful there for me than it was during the race, but should be fun to go back and watch.
Without a doubt. Well, listen, congratulations, Mark, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
That the voice of your race winner, Mark Whitley. And Logan, I believe you have with you now driver of the 9 machine, Barrett Morton.
Yeah, we got Barrett Morton here on the second step of the podium. A great race for you, and I think statistically you were the driver that had to make the most passes today. We saw you caught up a couple different times early on and in the middle of the race, but ultimately you battled all your way back up here to P2. Tell me a little bit about that, Barrett.
Yeah, I tried to take myself out. Is what it looked like happened.
I would agree.
Yeah. What was the first wreck? Oh, got caught up. Something happened off of Mark's nose or whatever, and I didn't think that guy would come back up the track, but surprise, he did. And so took my fasty, come back out, different pit cycle and everybody else, and then stayed out with Mark. Lost spots. Let Seagraves go on one corner. And then went to push him down the straightaway, and he broke real early, and then I saw him just head straight to the inside wall. I hit the brakes to let him gather it back up, and I got ran over by my teammate. So luckily, that didn't really affect us. We went in, got tires, while everyone else was still on old tires. We topped it off, and we needed it to go green the rest of the way, and we did. And, so it kind of gifted us a second place. I told Mark, I said, "You're welcome" for that one. So. we kind of got gifted a top 3 there.
Yeah, it's strategy really came into play with this and wasn't quite expecting the green flag to take way all the way to the checkered after our final incident there. It really threw a couple drivers off and set you guys up well for success. Now, Was that a initial thought process here was to try and get that run there at the end of the race, or what was the strategy call coming into this one?
You try to qualify good because it was really slick qualifying. Actually, all of practice was very slick. So we thought that the race was going to be awful. Like we thought it's be single car wrecks and people getting loose and stuff like that. All night. And it was quite the opposite. There was a lot more grip this evening than we anticipated. So had to push it a little bit harder to try to hold your spots but not kill your tires at the same time. And then once we saw it was going to go green, we're like, well, things might work out in our favor. But the strategy was honestly just to, I don't know, try to avoid the carnage. And yet I pretty much was the carnage tonight, and things again worked out in our favor. I have no idea if we made it. I knew I needed to at least do the best I could, and that was all I could do. I wasn't beating Mark. It ain't happening.
It's going to be extremely close on the points. I was taking a look at it throughout the broadcast. I saw there was a 7-point difference between yourself and Garrett Kinder. It came down to 6 positions between you two. So we'll just have to wait and see until everything is posted and updated. But best of luck to you for making it to the round of 8. But for tonight, a great finish in second place. Barrett Morton, is there anybody you'd like to say thanks to?
Yeah, Jam Printing and Promotions, V-Speed, Alexander PC, Cruising Classics, GTR Simulators, pretty much everybody at GLR, all my teammates at Bandits, Spearcrest Digital, Riley's Roses, Wax Marina, and again, all my my teammates. So Brandon Wallace was a big help all night tonight. So and Stephen Davis and Purcell, we actually all finished pretty good. So I did my part, did the best I could. Shouldn't have had the gap going in, but hopefully we make it. We'll see.
Fingers crossed. We'll have that updated here shortly. Barrett Morton, everybody, second place finisher in Iowa. Dave, I think you've gotten the chance to catch up with our third place finisher. First time on the podium here, Jamie Libke.
Jamie Libke, Dave Regal up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, how's it going?
Fantastic. First of all, let me say that I've been cheering for you quietly all season long. You finally make me look like I know what I'm talking about. You drove through all kinds of nice and quiet and managed to finish on the podium.
Yeah, I was just being patient. Yeah, each of the restarts, just let people burn their stuff up, get those spots back later on. I think it's the first time I've ever finished at Iowa, period, with 0 incident points. So there's that to go also. It's usually a wreck fest and end up getting caught and stuff like every race I go there. So it's nice to not get collected for once here.
Yeah, one of the things that I've highlighted time and time again here in your races is the fact that you almost always get caught up in somebody else's BS. And tonight, as soon as you're able to, avoid the dumb stuff, this is when we see that cream rise to the top. So you did a great job tonight. Finally made me look like I knew what I was talking about. And before we cut you loose, who helped you get it done tonight on the 16 machine?
Yeah, gotta thank iRacing for the wonderful platform that they've put together for decades at this point. MK Fire Design, Sim Motion, Harpoon Designs, Zat Graphics, and INVETS for all the support that they give GLR and for sponsoring this series, making sure that we're able to have these races on Sunday. And my teammates with Sim Racing Pride. Finally got talked into running ARCA on Monday. I was pretty adamant I didn't want to race that series anymore after the fiasco of a season we've had, but they talked me into it, so I'm going to finish out the season.
Look at you going back to where it all started in the ARCA series. Congratulations. And listen, my friend, I am so happy for you tonight here finishing P3. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Well, Logan, before we get out of here, let's take a look here at our schedule as now we get ready to pare this round of 12 down to our round of 8 as we get on to Bristol next week and then Chicagoland before going to Miami. I'll tell you right now, we get ready for the last great Coliseum next week. Oof, what a great night for competition. As we take as we take one last look at our final results. I'm Dave Riggle alongside of Logan Threlkeld and Skylar Daly. Want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight as we saw Mark Whitley bring home the checkered flag. And folks, tomorrow and every day as you walk down the road of life, please don't play in traffic. Good night, everybody.
Superior quality, ultimate protection, and the highest level of craftsmanship. We make our gloves for the hard worker that wakes up every morning and gives 110%. You deserve the highest quality protective gear that's going to work for you day in, day out. We know it can be tough deciding what companies to trust for your hard-earned money. It's all in our name. We've mastered our craft to help you master yours. We make our gloves rugged, durable, and designed for you. Whatever the job is, we have you covered. We are your glove station.